Howdy, YouTube folks. It's your friendly neighborhood girl, Ellen, bringing you another video. And I thought I would make another video. Excuse me, I'm going to have a drink of this lemon tea. I like the unsweetened with lemon. But of course, that apparently is hard to find. But this Pure Leaf stuff, not sponsored, is really good. And they say it's better for you. Technically, it's 150 calories, but I think that's because this has sugar and it's not sweetened. But if you get the unsweetened, but I really like that kick of lemon. I have bought in the unsweetened and squeezed a little lemon in it. But I just want to make a video saying, and hold on a minute, I need to pause, is that I came to a synopsis. I'm sorry I had to pause the video for a second to blow my nose. Again, we've talked about that, so that's nor here or there. But that a suggestion I have for everyone out there is to try to live for the now. And I came for a synopsis of that because I'm really trying to live for the now and rebuild myself. Don't get me wrong. I love older music, and this is just my synopsis on this. You know me, I listen to Grateful Dead, I listen to older stuff. I really like the reggae greats, like Bob Marley and all that. I'm really into other different cultural music to an extent. But tonight, for a prime example, and I will get into more details of that, is I was listening to modern dubstep reggae, and this person had created this reggae. It was chill vibe. Also, the other night, I listened to a little bit of Treehouse, and one was shamanic reggae dubstep, but it was all made within the past 6 months or so, 6 to 9 months. And I feel like music is a thing that, like, it's okay to like older music. Obviously, I'm not saying don't, and it's okay to have a favorite song or remember songs from your childhood and things that you like, but to also incorporate a lot of modern music, because I believe the more modern music you listen to, the more it brings you into the now, and it brings you into the current life, and living in the now, and being a part of the now. And as you know, as a person who's really trying to rebuild themselves and better their life, I believe, I don't know if the word victim of circumstance is the right word, but it could be in that way. But also because I created this circumstance, that's why, and I own that I created my circumstances from spiraling things that I have done in my life, or, up to where I am right now. And it's on me and I own it. But I'm trying to work on bettering myself, because everybody has, I believe, these times in their life where it's a little bit tougher. And I believe I'm also kind of suffering through a midlife crisis, because I am 33 years old. So I've been dealing with a lot of stress things, and I think it's gotten to me as I've turned 33 this past year in November. But anyways, so my synopsis to that is that modern music is a representation of being able to embrace the modern and be okay with the modern, instead of being just in the tradition. Like right now, I can tell you the song that's stuck in my head currently is Rainbow by New Riders of the Purple Sage, which is from the 70s. And I do love that band, don't get me wrong, but it's like, and I have that very outlaw country vibe, and I love that old stuff, but I also love modern day reggae. Like, I think actually also earlier today I was listening to, it was a futuristic dubstep reggae, album that somebody created on YouTube within the past 6 months. And you heard it in one of my shorts that I recently did about the childhood memory meal that I haven't had in the longest time, but my Dad really likes it, and so we finally had it again because he was really craving it, and it had been years. But we just never gotten around to it. Plus, it's not exactly the healthiest meal on earth. It's Bisquick. I mean, we all know any commercialized food, but that's a whole other topic. But I used a snippet of that in that short. And another prime example around the music thing about living in the now, because I'm using music as an example for now for this, is if people that are intuitive and can like psychic, you say you go to a psychic and they're, or like you see a psychic somewhere and they make videos and they give you a reading and they channel into a song, right? Usually the song is like, it could be a slightly older song, but usually it's a more of recent year song. Like one I heard recently was Them Say in like a self-help counseling YouTube channel I stumbled upon that's been really helping me with building and taking advice. And I believe their psychic too was they were channeling to a song by Mariah Carey, and we all know Mariah Carey is not a totally brand new artist, but from the 90s all the way into the mid 2000s and still kind of making music, I think, low-key. So you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm trying to say. And so if they can tune into that, that's proof that the universe doesn't want us to necessarily be stuck in past music, for example. But I believe the same can be said for habits. I think you don't necessarily need new things all the time, because I feel like that could make you more material than anything, in my opinion. If you accept having older things like I do and okay with what you have, that's, to me, that's not as material. But say when you need something new that's absolutely dire, that would make more sense to buy brand new, I think that's also living in the now too, embracing brand new things and brand new experiences and moving on, because I believe the world is always evolving, and the world does not stop for one person. So if you don't evolve yourself with the world, you're never going to catch up with the world if you don't. And you're always going to be that far behind, because I've realized as I've gotten older and being kind of stuck in the music of the 1990s when I was a kid and prior, there's a lot of music I have never heard before that I actually liked from more recent rappers of, like, say 2018 to 2022-ish, 23, that I didn't even know about, and I'm discovering now, and I love their music. And now I'm discovering new music that artists that came out in 2023 made in 2023 that are still making music today, that are making really good new hits. So I kind of have asked myself, where have I been, and why was I under a... Sorry, there was a notification on my thing. Why was I under a rock for this long? For example, with rap music, because I do like a lot of hip-hop rap music, if it's the right stuff. When I was younger, I used to really be into gangster rap, but I'm not really as much anymore, because I feel like gangster rap is just too harsh. And when I first got into rap, I was more into people like Spoonie G and the really early stuff where it was more like upbeat dance and stuff. And I know a lot of gangster rappers like Ice Cube and them, you know, they had good music, and Tupac. I'm not going to say that they didn't, and they felt that it was wrong that artists like these earlier ones, and I'm not necessarily saying all of them, but some of them felt that way, that not talking about that kind of stuff because they may have started out being that. And there's also some like Suge Knight, for example, you know, no offense, he made some decent music, but he kind of was one of those people like the you can't touch me type of person. And same with MC Hammer, and was into some bad dealings and kind of just made it on that. And I understand where they're coming from, but I think I'd almost rather have an upbeat song like that, because that's kind of like making your music sound more upbeat, even if you're not living an upbeat lifestyle, you know, and making it more fun and like House of Pain's Jump, if you want to get up to get down, you know. But at the same token, like I said, there is really some good gangster rap. But you know, that's just an example of me living for the modern. Is I never even realized that there is so many brand new artists out there that are equally as good as all the old stuff. Why do I spend so much time listening to more older stuff than I do new and keep repeating it? And it gets stuck in my head, different songs and different days. And it's, again, it's not that I don't like it, but it's like I'm discovering all this good new stuff, and it's so nice. So, you know, and what else was I, like I said, in anything, reading new books, getting new experiences, really living for the now. And that's where my mindset is. I've been really decluttering and getting rid of a lot of stuff. Tomorrow, the next day after the day of me making this video and it being up whenever you see it, I have an old 66 treadle sewing machine, which I believe I've showed in videos. And I picked it up at a thrift store. And I think I only paid $20 for it, but I had invested some money in buying a belt for it and a hand crank. But I had roughly around $40 in service to my grandmother's old mint green singer that I believe she got in 77 as like an anniversary present. And I thought to myself, even though I do use the treadle sewing machine a lot, but with the hand crank, why do I use this treadle sewing machine when I have an electronic sewing machine that, granted, is a fast stitch that works, that I had just gone through and serviced? And part of it was because I was worried about any more damage to it after paying that money, even though it wasn't really damaged. It just, I could, you know, that smell you get off of an older motorized electric device when you think the motor might be on its way out. And all it really needed was a good cleaning. But still, you know what I mean? That was part of my fear. But also, like I said, I had to say to myself, anyways, this year is, why do I have all these sewing machines? Plus, I had a fourth one that I was going to take the hand crank off of this 66 and put on once I found the spoke pulley like the 66 had, because this hand crank would also work for the 99K Red Eye, and this was a 99K Red Eye, but I believe, from what I understand, it was a later one where they made it with the electric motor, but they were all designed so you could put the spoke pulley on an electric one. It's just later they adapted them with motors, from what I learned on a forum that I'm a part of on Facebook. But anyways, and I said, I don't need 4 sewing machines. Plus, I got one that an aunt gave me. That's a little 221 featherweight that I have a replacement foot pedal for because the foot pedal internal is worn out. But anyways, between my grandmother's and that little one my aunt gave me, that's more than enough sewing machines for me. And I had 5, but I got rid of a 1970s white Italian-made Singer that I really only got for spare parts for my grandmother's sewing machine. And there were some identical parts, but a lot of them weren't really that identical. And I said to myself, why am I keep hanging on to this? And I ended up giving that one away because, again, I got it for free. It was in a free pile. So I didn't pay anything for it. Didn't have the base with it. Didn't know the condition of the motor. And I was able to salvage the foot pedal off of it. And the person who grabbed it was using it for parts anyways to fix their, I think, their Italian-made Singer. So all the pieces were there. But anyways, yeah. So I was like, that's what inspired me to purge. You know, to get rid of stuff, declutter. And if any of y'all are dealing with that, I think it obviously would not hurt to, excuse me, I gotta move this. There we go. Soul search within yourself and say to yourself, do I need to live with this clutter? I also had an eye-opening too a little bit, because the aunt that I got the van from, and I mentioned I helped her with the property for years, her and my uncle have always kind of had a little bit of a, they like to collect things, which is totally understandable. and so did my mom's father. But which I believe I got it mostly from, but they liked to do that. And I believe that tendency is kind of run in the family a little bit, but they were very much collectors. But it spiraled out of hand, and now she's really trying to declutter stuff as she's talked with me to get rid of things she feels that have a little bit of value, and she just wants to sell them because they're older antique things, and she doesn't really need them anymore because she doesn't use them at all. And I totally get that, and that also eye-opened me a little bit too, is to say, what do I have around that I do not need? Obviously, I won't get rid of everything, but there's a lot of things that I don't need that I'm willing to get rid of, because why do I keep them around if they don't serve me? You know what I mean? So yeah, if you're dealing with that as well, and you have that problem, and you really like to collect things, say that to yourself. If you say you get to a point where you're overwhelmed with it, I feel like is what I'm trying to say, is you should say to yourself, is it really worth having all that stuff around if it overwhelms you? And I got to a point where it's overwhelming so much that I have stuff in a closet that I don't even really use anymore because it's got old appliance bits. But thankfully, I have someone who will possibly be coming. We're supposed to schedule a meet. And I have told them that the 2 Zenith radios that I have, they're transoceanics. Together, the full value I paid for them is $80. So if they think that's too much, that maybe if they gave me the $80 for those, even if I paid money for some other stuff that I had, that I would just throw it in just so I could get my $80 at least out of them, and then I could put it into my van, because that, to me, that's more of a beneficial. Plus, also, it would help me clean my closet out, and I could finally have some closet space back, because that's something I've really wanted, is closet space back. And I was going to put it up on eBay, but then I was scrolling through Marketplace on Facebook, for those of you familiar with it, and I found this person near me. I think they might even be in the same state, I forget. But anyways, and I wouldn't really bring it up anyways if they did. That's their personal business. But, and I saw it, and they're into this stuff, and that's what they do for a business. And sometimes they buy broken down appliances. They may not pay much for them, but, But I thought, what a golden opportunity to get rid of more stuff that I don't even need in my life, that's not going to serve me in my life. And it's just going to make more space for me. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I've got some money, a little bit of money tied up in a trade for some A-tracks that I also told them I would throw in too, because I have so many of them, and I want to get rid of all of those because I don't really have an A-track player to play on them with. And I'm at this point, I really don't have the means to hunt for one, and I would just as soon get rid of them. And so there again, there's another golden opportunity to get rid of even more, because I'm mainly into cassette tapes. I'm also getting rid of if they want it, a reel-to-reel machine that I had plans to fix up, and I think I paid $5 for it. But if they want that, that can go with it too, because when am I ever going to get around to fixing that reel-to-reel machine, get it working anytime soon, with my funding being tied up in the van? And actually, excuse me one more time to move that, and actually do what I want to do with that. And it was to make recordings on reel-to-reel if I could find new old stock reels that were never used, and those are getting few and far between also. So it's like, when am I ever going to get to that? And so I thought about it, and I said, well, I'll let that go too, because I don't really need it in my personal life right now. And so that, again, that's kind of where the mindset I'm at. And it's a decent reel-to-reel player if fixed up, because it's a Sony branded one. And those are, at least back in the day, I felt Sony was really a top of the line quality product along with Panasonic. So I know there's somebody out there that will appreciate that being a Sony. So that's real, like I said, that's where my mindset's at, and I'm really glad about getting rid of stuff. I'm so thrilled, and I can't wait to make this meetup where they come to my place. And obviously I'm very cautious and careful, but come to look at the stuff and I can dig out, maybe even bring it downstairs so it's easier for them to look at down in that area, and just be able to get rid of a bulk amount of stuff because I just really need the space. Plus I have some antique medical massagers. One is in the case and has the book. And again, I paid $20 for the lot of stuff that came with, but I'm willing to cut that loss just to free up some space. And I also got a stack of vinyl that I paid $1 each on the vinyls when I would buy them at the thrift store that I'd also throw in just because I really want to get rid of stuff. And if I don't get rid of it on Marketplace like I want, I'm probably going to end up bringing it to the thrift store and just redonating it because it's music I don't even really listen to. And I don't know why I grabbed it because I wasn't that into it. But anyways, so you know what I mean? It's like I'm really on that purge moment. Like I just want to declutter and get rid of stuff so I can have a less cluttered space. I can live a more comfortable life. And I highly, like I said, I highly suggest for you YouTube folks to soul search and get in there and realize that you don't need all this stuff, because it's not like you can bring the material things to you in your grave. And it's okay to collect things, I think, within reason. But when you start collecting to the point where you have way more than seems functionally for your space, is it really worth having all that? And so that's why I'm getting to that point of saying to myself, no, this isn't worth having all this in my space because it's just not functioning with my feng shui, and it's more of clutter than anything else. So getting rid of it is actually something I'm okay with doing. And that's why I've gotten to the point where I just want to get rid of stuff, because I feel it will be more beneficial to my life to let go of things and to evolve into the new age a lot more, because I feel like getting more in tune with the new age means I'm more in tune with the now than I was years ago. And as I've said before, it's a process I've worked on myself. Like I mentioned in previous videos, another prime example of me living for the now and accepting the now and embracing the now and embracing what's to come and being okay with what's to come was when I was younger, and I believe I mentioned this in a previous video, like I said, maybe I didn't, but when I was younger and I was a little kid and always afraid of death and dying after seeing loved ones passing on around me and being worried about what's it going to be like when I pass away. And then also when my dad's father had passed away, and it was around 03, I believe he passed, 03, 04, I forget exactly. But I remember dreaming about him, and I was just a kid, and the dream kind of caught me off guard. And it wasn't a negative dream. I was glad he was there because I loved him dearly. But it was just like, it arose a fear in me when I was little, like, what happened if I died tomorrow? And I think at the time I was only 7, maybe 8. And I think it was just after I had I think I was like 8, because I had broken my leg once, either 7 or 8, but anyways, I'd broken my leg once, because I broke my leg twice actually, but this was the first time I broke it, is what I mean. And I think it was around the same spot I broke it twice, but anyways, this was the first time I broke it, and it just innate that fear in me. And I don't know why my young brain was correlating, well, oh, you accidentally broke your leg, does that necessarily mean you're gonna pass on? But you know what I mean, being young and not fully grasping the whole death and the reincarnation stuff. And as I've gotten older, I've realized to accept more that when it's your time, it's your time, and you can't predict necessarily or know that. I'm not saying it couldn't be foretold when you are, if you seeked it, but will it really make you feel any better? Will that drive you to change so you won't have that happen? And would you mess with the space-time continuum, or like, as they say, or like the mess with the timeline? But you see what I mean? So I got myself to that point, and I think that's also what I'm trying to say is a way of living in the now, embracing what's to come. So say, as sad as it is, if you get really sick and say you had a terminal illness, as sad as it is, and say you were dealing with that, for example, just to know that, to maybe reflect back a little bit at least and say, you know, I've had some good times in my life, and get yourself to a point where now I'm ready to embrace the now and the afterlife, because I know that it's not over from here. And I do believe when we pass on out of our bodies, that's not the end of us. I believe our soul is the living part and the body is just a vessel. So, and that's just my opinion. So when we die, that from the physical realm, we've not necessarily died. We've just ascended to the next part of where our soul needs to be to go on to its next reincarnation of what it needs to be, or where it needs to ascend higher. And I believe each one of us are put on this earth for a reason, because we're here for whatever purpose we're here for, whether we're to be an example and a lesson for someone else, or if we're here to ascend and achieve great things, to bring awareness of something to the earth that is already decided before we're even born and exist. That's a soul pact that's been made with a spirit team by your spirit before you're even consciously aware in birth. Because as you know, majority of the time, except for I believe in select few cases, and you can dispute this with me all you want, but I can give you examples of why I believe that I was one of the select few cases that babies usually don't know anything or remember anything from when you're a baby. You don't usually remember that because you're first born and you're learning everything. And so I believe that's why the soul doesn't necessarily project what it was, and you don't necessarily remember what the pact you had made in spirit form, because you didn't get to see that pact, because it was a previous life that had passed on, making the pact for you in the new life. But I do believe that I do have a lot of vivid memories, not a ton of vivid memories, but a few, of when I was 1 year old. And that's only because I feel like I've had a lot of memories from when I was younger, and I could remember everything that went on in my life, oddly enough. And dispute that with me all you want, but it's just the weirdest thing, and I've never been able to explain it. Like, I can remember back, even slightly later, but still as early as 2 years old, exactly what the condo looked like that my parents had when I was really young and first born, and up into 2 3 years to 4 years old, in not in the same county here. It was in the city area of Vermont. And anyways, I can remember vividly what that condo looked like. I can remember every room to the T. I can even remember when I was a kid playing in the bathtub, and I had this favorite baby doll, and it was an older one, and I think my grandmother gave it to me, but it had like a curly hair on it, and it was from the 50s. And I also had another baby doll that would say mama all the time, and I can remember setting it in front of a tree and playing with it and stuff like that. And as I'm recalling these now and talking about them, they're flooding back to me, and I can remember them. I don't necessarily remember the dates, but I knew it was in the it was in the range of 92 through at least 95-ish, give or take, because I was born in 92. And I can vividly remember what the kitchen looked like. Like right now, I'm picturing the kitchen with its orange Magic Chef appliances and my mom's oyster sizer blender. And I also can remember the day that it was scary, and thankfully I landed on my bum, but I fell down. We had kind of a spirally staircase, and I fell backwards down on it because my dad had a console stereo down in the basement, and it was one of those rectangular ones that sat on a floor with the four legs that had the radio and everything in it. And I thankfully landed on my bum, but I do believe that there was and possibly it was maybe a guardian angel or spirit guide that came in the form of like a little girl and she was pale white, so I had a hunch that she had passed away, and had shorter hair, and her dress was like black with red roses, and I can vividly remember it. And I've been very thankful to her for this day, even though I don't always think about her all the time. And I remember saying thank you to her afterwards because I'd fallen on my butt instead of on my head, and I believe that was her coming from the spirit world to look out for me and save me from what could have happened, because my life would have been short and I wasn't meant to leave at the world at that time. So that's stuck with me forever. And I don't know if it was because I was seeing things being a kid in that moment and being like, oh my God, I'm seeing things, but I do believe what I saw. And so I've always believed that that is very much there, and spirits are very much there. And I believe that spirits are constantly looking over us all the time and watching out for us in the way that they do, because they want to make sure that we're safe and we're okay, so. And where was I going for that? And so that's why I'm saying, dispute that or not, I do have a lot of memories from when I was younger and a kid, and I just remember up until I was 1 year old. And again, like I said, I can't explain it. It's the weirdest thing ever. I don't know why my mind has always remembered that stuff, but it has. And anyways, hey spirit, I know you're there. Sorry, my curtain's moving. That happens a lot. It's either my grandparents or someone there that maybe's on my mind, and they're just looking in on me and checking in on me, because sometimes I see my curtain move. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, so anyways, like I said about that. But yeah, just trying to, again, I got off to another topic, but again, just trying to live in the now. Just be in the now and just embrace the now. That's all I can say. And I think this video has gone on long enough, because I got on kind of two different things. I hope you YouTube folks have an excellent time, whatever it is, wherever you are. Keep your heads up, stay strong, all that kind of jazz. If you wouldn't mind liking, commenting, and subscribing, you know the drill on that. I don't think I need to say it a bunch. But for those of you who are new, you don't have to subscribe. It would be nice if you did. It'd be nice if you hit that like button. It would also be nice if you hit full notification. No pressure. Partial notification, that's fine too. Or none. That's okay. But if you really liked my videos and you wanted to hit that full notification bell, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm a girl over here striving, very masculine presenting trans woman here, just striving and trying her best to be on her best level, but just doing her thing. Yeah, and as always, keep your heads up, stay strong, all that kind of jazz. Oh, and before I get into the last part, if you wouldn't mind commenting, even constructive criticism, I am totally fine with that too. I'm open to anything if it's within reason, obviously. As I've stated before, I want my YouTube channel to be a full-on, very peace and love vibe, very vibin', on point, as much as possible YouTube channel. But I am going to share the real and the raw with you, and you will see that. And so that's why I am just saying that will also be there. But also have an excellent time, whatever it is, wherever you are, as I always sign off with. And as always, sunshine, unicorns, and rainbows. And I will see you, YouTube folks, in the next video. And I hope it's equally as interesting. And I'm hoping that these self-help talking videos on my opinions give you a little advice and food for thought. Again, just to, if you have cluttering habits, to say, maybe I should declutter because I don't need it, and see why you need it. Like I said, I hold by a standpoint that you cannot bring the physical attributes of your life to your grave. Yes, people will put, as historically known, and we've seen throughout history, little things and tokens in people's caskets at funerals, which I probably won't have a funeral like that. That's just my preference, but in general, and I won't get too much into that because I think I've mentioned it. But just that's what they normally do as like memories and tokens of the things that remind them of that person. And so you see what I mean? Sorry, I'm going off on a thought train here, spacing out. But you see what I mean? And so therefore, does that real... In the end, it's not like your spirit actually brought those items that were thrown in the casket. And it's good that it helps family members feel better about it and say, oh, I've left something behind for you as a memory in your casket. But at the same token, it's not like your spirit actually carried it off out of the casket with you to where you ascend to. So yeah, just keep that in your mind. Declutter. It took me a lot of mental thought and a therapist to realize that I have way more clutter than I've actually ever needed. And I'm just getting to the point where I need to focus on what I want out of life and what makes me happy. And through talking with a therapist and some other avenues that I'm really grateful for that have helped me out and stuff, and I'll leave it at that. That and people in my life that I'm really grateful for and have a true adoration and respect for, that have come in and out of my life at different times, that have helped me. But anyways, I'm grateful for that. And it's... every little thing has given me food for thought and just made me realize how much better I could probably be as a person if I didn't stay where I'm at. And so, yeah, just keep that in your thought and just soul search for yourself. And like I said, little things like decluttering, or maybe finding a cool new artist that you can vibe with, and being more into some more modern music and really getting into the now. You'll be better off. But anyways, YouTube folks, again, this has been long enough. I hope you the best, and I will see y'all in the next video. And I hope my advice will help you better ascend into your true selves and get you to a point of where you can just feel good. And remember that if you're somebody who's gone through some maybe similar struggles to some of the things I've gone through in my life, even though I've not really mentioned much of them, and get where I'm coming from, you're possibly put on this earth as an example of how a person can learn from someone else and say, don't make that stuff or that mistake and do that stuff at such a young age. Prize your youth for what it is, and embrace it and hold it, and know that the people around you matter, and don't drive them out, and don't do certain things, and break the chain cycle of maybe of things that possibly happened in your ancestry tied to you that has been a family gene trait. But anyways, again, YouTube folks, I will see you in the next one, and bye for now.